Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Software Testing Mentor and RCV Academy. Today, I'm here with Imran Sikdar, who is having 2+ years of experience in software testing, has extensively worked in API testing, and has a good understanding of the Scrum and Agile. Also, he's very good at the manual testing and SQL part. So today's agenda for this interview will be to have the questions to Imran around the Scrum and Agile and API testing. So let's welcome Imran. Hi Imran, how are you?
Thank you, sir. And I'm good, sir. How are you, sir?
Yeah, good, good. Thanks, Imran. So, Imran, before we proceed further, I would like to mention that this video is getting recorded and it will be posted on my YouTube channel for others viewers to watch. Are you fine with that?
Yeah, there is no issues. Can post it.
Okay, cool. So I mean, I didn't hear properly, Imran. Are you fine with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. There is no issues.
Okay, excellent. All right. So let's get started with the interview, Imran. So before we start, I would like to mention that I have your resume. I've gone through it and it looks pretty impressive considering you have only 2+ years experience and you are kind of, you have started in the journey. But the things that you have learned over this 2 years period of time, it's really commendable. So we'll see how you will be able to tackle different questions that I'll be asking today, and then I'll give you the feedback as we go along. Okay. So, yeah, let's get started. So, can you introduce yourself, Imran?
Yeah, sure. My name is Imran Sikdar, and I have a 2.5-year experience in software testing domain. And currently, I'm working in Accenture. And I was primarily working in several cloud-based applications that has several modules, core modules we have. That is lead, contact, report, and campaign, all etc. We have. I was basically into that manual testings, and my roles and responsibility were that in the project, I need to understand the requirement and identify the scenarios. I need to write the test cases and review the test cases, also executing the test cases as well, and extensively working with that end-to-end EY testing to contributing to the team with the regression testings as well, and working with the developer team and test leader to verify the test cases. And also like preparing the traceability metrics for the requirement functionalities and for each module, and regular following with the developer team to finding the defect to identify during the testings, and that report uh, debug with the tracking tool that we are using in the Jira, and the primary focusing on that to release the product to ensure that all the tests we have passed before deadline. And I also run the occasionally I is running that automation regression suites, and I need to share that report to the stakeholder. And this is how this is the my roles and responsibilities in my company or in my roles.
All right, cool. So, Imran, overall, good introduction. You have covered the roles and responsibilities, which is good in a way that you need to cover some of it. But then I have explained a lot about in my older interview videos how you should tackle tell me about yourself or introduce yourself question. Okay. So there are three things that you have to keep in mind. Go and watch my old videos of interviews. So I have covered in detail. Basically, you need to talk about your present, then go to the past, and then talk about the future. So when we say talk about the present, you talked whatever you are doing now. And in the present, what achievements, if there are any little achievements or little improvements that you have done, highlight that. In the past where you have worked, in your case, you can mention about the college project or something. If not, then don't worry about it. Future is important because whatever position you are applying for, make sure you research about that position and see what exactly they are looking for. the job description, and then mention that you have these sort of skills. You need an API tester, or you need a person who is good at Postman. This is what I have done in my past project. I have done API testing, and these are the things that I have done there to improve the overall things, right? So, key things: present, past, and future. Just remember these things, and your answer will be
Sure, sir.
much better. Okay. Overall, it's good you have summarized things properly, but make sure that you have these statements separately so that it's more clear for the person to understand.
Right.
All right. Okay, so let's move on to our next question. So, because you have mentioned in your resume that you have extensive experience working in agile projects, so we'll start with the agile and we'll start with Scrum. So, what do you understand by Scrum?
Scrum is a framework that helps to agile team to work together to develop the software, to deliver the software, and sustain the complex product within the shorter time. If you see the if you see the Scrum, there will be some stage we have. First, that product backlog will be there. So in the product backlog, that consists of like epic user stories or user stories we need to maintain there, and the product backlog will have that is which we need to going to be developed. Whatever the user stories we have in the product backlog, and we'll give the user stories the business value point, so that is classify of the importance of the user stories. That is also going to be help us. After product backlog, we have to go for a sprint meeting or a sprint planning. In that planning, we have that is product owner. In the product owner, like developer team and tester team, we need to discuss. And the product owner, that he has to uh, clarify the user stories, like how the user stories and how like client giving the requirement, and each and every point he needs to clear all these things. And after that we have to go for the estimation part also, like how much time it will take and how much, and we have to give the user value point also, user story points also we have to give there as a developer or as a tester. And then we have to go for a sprint backlog. Sprint backlog will keep the user stories in the sprint backlog, which needs to be developed now only. Like whatever the sprint durations will be there, 2 to 4 weeks or like 1 to 3 weeks. And between that time only, we need to complete the like sprint backlog. And after sprint backlog, we have to go like a Scrum team we have. It is a Scrum team, we have Scrum master, developer, and tester team. So we need to work parallelly on those things. And there will be the sprint and durations. I have mentioned already duration. It will be 2 to 4 weeks, and within that we have to complete all those things. After the complete the sprint backlog, we need to give review to the stakeholder, and after giving the stakeholder, we need to go for the review or something to the customer. So this is how Scrum process is going, and this is we have to go for that.
Absolutely. So, pretty impressive, Imran, there. The way you have explained clearly shows that you have definitely worked extensively in the framework. And you mentioned that Scrum is a framework which agile teams use to work together to build the product, which is really good. And you have defined the overall process. So I think I do not need to elaborate more on there, but just want to add a couple of more things in the definition that you can add. So basically, Scrum came from the rugby. So there is a game rugby, right? So in rugby, usually the teams
Yes,
go
yes,
together. If you Google rugby game, you will see that teams self-organize together and work on a problem. And
yes,
that's what you have already explained. So pretty good. And you have explained the overall process like product backlog. And then from product backlog, you pick the sprint backlog. And sprint backlog is nothing but the work items or the user stories that you will pick to build in the 2 to 4 week cycle. So, what is the usual sprint duration that you follow in your organization?
no, it's depend on the user stories. Like we have mentioned, like we have given the 2 to 4 weeks, and if it is a depend on the sprint, what we are keeping in the sprint backlog,
Mhm.
and how the complexity of the user stories. If it is a like more, we need to like analyze, like developer will analyze and tester also will analyze how much time it will take to testing the applications or whatever. So depend on that only we are giving the estimations idea. So
Right.
sometime it go to the 2 weeks, sometime it will take 3 weeks as well as.
Okay. So yeah, so you are telling about the estimation. So estimation is fine, but usual duration of the sprint. So you mentioned that duration is like 2 weeks sprint, right? Or 2 or 4 weeks sprint.
two
So
to four weeks.
so
Two to
what
four
what
weeks.
is your
Yes.
what is the duration in your project? Is it 2 weeks or is it 4 weeks or 3 weeks?
No, again, sir, it is not like it's depend on the again like whatever the user stories. Like it's depend on the module changing, right? There are several module we have. So
Okay.
there are some modules like complexity modules we have. In that modules, there are lots of like development works like coding or something. For tester also, it is like taking more time to test all those things. At the
Okay.
times we are giving the more durations, like 3 weeks or
Right.
4 weeks. It depends. We can't fix that like we have to go for only 2 weeks.
Okay. So I think if that's the case in your organization, then it's not the the way Agile or Scrum defines the sprints. So you, in terms of estimation, I can understand that a story might take 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or
Yes,
three sprints. And if it takes three sprints, then you have to divide it into smaller chunks so that it fits into the sprint duration. But usually sprints will be
yes,
either 2 weeks, so it's a time box cadence. So if you follow 2 week sprint, you follow 2 weeks. So you do sprint planning, you pick the work item, you finish those in 2 weeks, and then the next sprint starts. In the next sprint, which is another 2 weeks,
we
you
do
pick
it.
another. So I think you got confused with the estimation and the sprint. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, the sprint duration will be either, some people say you can also take 1 week, but most of the industry
2 weeks.
standards, many places it will be 2 to 4 weeks,
1.
and 4 weeks is rare. 2 weeks is pretty standard, which organizations follow. And then within those 2 weeks, you pick
Pretty
the
standard,
user
yes.
stories
But we
which
have
will fit or which your team can deliver within those 2 weeks. So that's the overall practice around the sprint duration.
right,
Okay.
right.
But your answer about the scrum is absolutely correct. Whatever process you have explained, that's absolutely correct. And I can totally understand that understanding scrum or mastering scrum takes lifetime. It's like a game of chess. So a game of chess, if I explain you the rules of a chess, I'll be able to explain it in like 15 minutes to you that these are the
Right.
rules. But to become a chess master, you practice lifetime. And
Mm,
similar is with Scrum. Okay. So you work in a project, you move to somewhere else, you will find some different approaches there. So it takes a lot of experience and exploration to understand the way Scrum framework is works, or master it basically. Okay, all right, that's good.
right.
Let's move on to the next question. So, what is the difference between Agile and Scrum?
Agile and Scrum, I would say that Agile is a like methodology. So uh, that help us to build the software like quickly and without compromising the quality of work. And in other words, I can say it is a flexibility process where like testers and developer work parallelly and as one team. And in the Agile, if you see, there is a lots of communications are required in the Agile, and rather than the documents, and that give the clarity of the user stories. And in the Agile, we can like frequently changes the requirement are very easily. We can handle all those things. And in the Agile also, we can see that like there is a like discussion between the often discussion between the product owner team to regarding the uh, sprint planning or some of the changes or something like. And if you see that like Scrum again, like I would say that all those process like durations and product backlog, and sprint backlog, sprint planning, backlog, and Scrum teams, all those process will go in the Scrum. So this is the difference I would say.
Okay.
So this is how
So,
like the difference.
right. Okay. So your answer to agile is somewhat correct, except that you mentioned that agile is a methodology, right? So agile is not a methodology. It's basically a philosophy, a set of values and principles that any agile development framework follows. So there are, if you go to Agile Manifesto, so you read Agile Manifesto, go to scrum.org, there are 4 values and 12 principles, right? So set of values and principles or the philosophy,
Yes,
like leadership encourages teamwork, accountability, face-to-face communication, teamwork. So there are a lot of principles and values that
yes,
are core to any of the agile development framework. Now, Scrum is agile development framework, but agile in itself is a
agile
philosophy. It's a
development.
set of values and principles. So that's the key difference. Now, when any framework, so there is a Kanban framework as well,
Okay,
right? So there is Scrum, there is Kanban, there is extreme programming you would have heard of, there is Lean,
right.
right?
And
So all these are agile development methodologies or frameworks
it's a
which,
driven.
yeah, which
Yes,
embrace the values and principles of agile. Okay, because agile is the philosophy, it's a set of values and principles. Okay,
right.
so that's the key difference. Remember that these two are not same. Agile is the philosophy, values and principles. Scrum, extreme programming, Kanban, Lean, all these are the frameworks which will help you to organize your team and then help you to basically say, okay, you get the sprint backlog, you develop these in 2 weeks, and then you do these meetings after that, you do these ceremonies and deliver, right? So is it clear? You are
Yes,
fine with the
absolutely.
answer, or you are you disagree on that?
No, I was thinking that Agile was methodology that under that Scrum is a part of like Agile. So, like for example, I can give the color and like black or red something. So it is under color only.
No.
So that
So
kind of I'm
so Scrum
comparing.
embraces the values and principles of agile. That's for sure. Okay, they are related. Extreme programming
Yes,
embraces the values and principles
yes,
of agile.
they are
Okay, but
related.
agile in itself is a philosophy. It's the set of values and principles. So if you yourself develop a new development methodology in which you say, I'll follow 6 weeks of a sprint, or I'll do the development in this way, but you follow or you embrace the philosophy and values and principles that are defined in agile manifesto, then your development methodology or the new methodology that you define will still be agile development methodology. Okay, I think that's sort of core of it. Okay,
Right,
so this question is a tricky one. If you ask, I mean, people have been in the industry for 15, 20 years, they are still confused about it. Okay, so this is the key difference that
yeah.
you know
So
should
I'm
remember.
getting clear on that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's move on to the next question. So, what exactly is
Sure.
daily stand up in Scrum?
Daily stand up, it is like again like it's very good like respecting the scrums and the meeting happen like between the team, like scrum master will be there, developer, tester, and product owner. For as a testers, I need to answer like 3 questions, like what I'm doing today and what I did yesterday and what like blocking me to do some certain works. Like what is the problem I'm getting to doing testing or something that I need to discuss. It is about the 15 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes meeting will be there. just in the morning time. And that importance of that like daily stand-up meetings will be like how the progressions of the work is going, like how like work is remaining or how much time have, and what is the technical issues are facing all the teams we need to discuss, and what next, what is the next steps to be done to go in the progress or to go to complete the process. So this is the meeting we have, and all the team will be there.
Yeah.
And this is the three questions I need to answer.
Yeah, absolutely spot on those three questions. And I'm pretty happy that you understand that these are the three questions that you need to discuss in those 15 minutes. So it's not more than 15 minutes. So usually
Mm,
daily scrum should be a 15-minute time box event, but most of the companies they most of the time exceed that 15-minute. So it's the role of Scrum Master to ensure that
yes,
daily stand up happens every day and it is time boxed. Okay, so Scrum Master ensures that. And it's the meeting, or it's basically the purpose
right,
is to inspect the overall progress, which we have covered very well. So, overall progress, and if required, then adjust the upcoming plan work to adjust with the sprint goal that has been defined. So
right,
absolutely fine, correct answer there. And a couple of more things you can go and read over the internet. Key thing to remember there is
right,
the Scrum Master's role, 15-minute time box event. So it should not be more than 15 minutes. And if there is anyone apart
more
from
than
the
15 minutes.
development team, say for example, product owner or any other stakeholders, they do not interfere in any other in the overall this daily scrum, right? So it's not a status meeting there. The people
Right,
or
right, absolutely
stakeholders who
right.
are
Yes,
there within the meeting, they can just stand and watch the discussion that is happening within the development team, but it's not a status call to take the status of the members of the team, which is very ideal situation. It usually doesn't happen in the practical scenario. You are aware of it. I am aware of it. Most of the organizations do not implement it correctly, but as per the interview answer, it is not a status meeting. And once we are following Agile, once we are following Scrum, it's our responsibility as a team as well to understand it correctly and then also educate others that this is how it should be done. Right. So that's the overall of it. But very good answer, and I like the three questions that you will definitely that you ask in the 15-minute time box daily Scrum. Okay, good. Any questions on that?
no, again you have said that like stakeholder and product owner, they can't say anything about the meeting, so they have to listen only. So
Yeah,
what I'm saying, or like developer team are saying, so they have to listen. Can't take, they can't talk in that meeting.
right. Unless and until they
So that is
themselves are the
good point
developers
you have
within the
mentioned.
team. So many places, a product owner or Scrum Master can also be part of the development team. They are actually working on something within the sprint. So if they are part of the development team, as well as they are also Scrum Master or product owner, then they can. Okay, that's the exception because they are part of the development team. If they are not, they are a complete separate role. They are not having any input in the development activities as such, then they should not consider it as a status meeting. Okay, so this is all written in scrum.org Agile Manifesto. You can read out pretty good information in the Agile Manifesto that will help you a lot to understand how actually Scrum works. You already have very good understanding, and if you'll read, it will refine your understanding a lot. Okay, so your Scrum knowledge is really good. I would
I'll
recommend that you
go
go
through
ahead
that.
and
I'll go
refine.
through that.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next question. So, what are the different roles in Scrum?
Different rules in Scrums. We have three rules in Scrum. First is the product owner rules, and second we have that is Scrum Master and the developer team or Scrum team we have. And in the product owner, like is a like domain expert, and he has some knowledge about the product. He has more experience in that, and he has to maintain the product backlog, and he has to clarify the user stories to the team, and he has to attend the meeting of the sprint planning and give the clarifications of user stories, and also he will be the part of the estimation, and he has to be like give the priorities of that user stories. That is the main key rule he's having. So he know the like product very well, and in the market value also, and customer requirement based on those only he will give the priorities on that. And again, I would say that he has to be accept that whatever the sprint backlog has completed, and when we'll go for the review or something, he has to accept this the like if it is not accept, then we have to go for again or something. We have to modify all those things. So this is how product owner is job is doing, and this is the role in Scrum. And secondly, I tell that Scrum Master. In the Scrum Master in Scrum, he is a like facilitator. He's not like giving the authority to anyone. In the facility, he is providing facility or helping to the team, agile team to work together, and he has to maintain like whatever the commitment he has done, and all those things he has to giving the clarify, and he has to see the progress of the work, like how team are progressing. So he has to go for the burn down chart. There will be in Jira, we'll see that burn down chart, how like progresses is going on. So how much time is remaining and how much time, how much we have. So this is how he has to see the progress. Apart from progress, also he has monitoring and tracking the development team, and he has to give the Scrum below point also to the team, and he should understand the user stories as well. So he need to be like very clarity on user stories, like what we are doing. And for me, like it is like he has to be very like focus on the product rather than process, not product, the process rather than the product. So because how process, how my team are working, how like we are giving any some like team are getting any struggle or something, or any obstacle or any problem are getting, he has to solve all this. So this is how the Scrum Master will do in that role. And the team again, like team will be have that developer team or Scrum teams. There will be the developer and tester team will work together to complete the project, to complete within the sprint duration. So this is the rules of the Scrums, the
Yeah,
three important rules we have.
absolutely fantastic, Imran. I don't need to add anything there. You have covered this question in such a detail that I'm surprised that you have started in a organization with 2 years experience, and you have learned so much about the roles and scrum and how the actual things work. So
Mm.
absolutely fantastic. You can just add in the scrum team cross functional, so couple of words you can add, like scrum team is a cross functional team, so it's a combination. So if I get two user stories, I as a team, or we as a team, should be able to should be able to design, build, test, and deploy. So that's what the cross functional team does. So self organizing cross functional team. But this is just a addition that I'm giving you, but your answer is absolutely fantastic. And I'm very happy that any person who will be watching this interview and listening to your answers should get a very good idea how they should tackle these sort of questions. So very impressive there, Imran. Okay, let's move on. What is backlog grooming?
Backlog grooming, it is again in the Scrum. So like backlog grooming is a regular sessions we have, that is backlog. Whatever the product in the backlog we have. So we need to review on that. We need to discuss about that backlog items, and we have to go for the priorities of that also. That is main purpose of the grooming backlog. It is like we have to like update it on those backlog items, and we have to planning for the next backlog product also, like next sprint in the, and in the backlog it is known as also like backlog management and pre-planning also they are calling sometimes user time it is. And the backlog, in the backlog management we have to maintain some of the like key point, like we have to removing outdated user stories or tasks. We need to remove all those things. We need to add like newly user stories to the backlog. So this is like, and we need to reassign or assign the user story point and that estimations we have to do. And we have to go for that like epics, like big user stories. We have to broad user stories to the smaller user stories. We need to focus on those things. And this is like backlog growing. We have this is
Right.
nothing but we have updating that backlog, like
Yeah.
how need to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, all your points, I agree with those. Backlog grooming is also known as backlog refinement. Now, if we talk about backlog in Scrum or Agile
Yes,
development, it's basically a set of user stories or requirements. So, in Agile, in Scrum, we have user stories, right? So, or high level, we'll be having Epic. So, Epic is a high level, big user story which needs to be broken into smaller user stories which we can build in the sprint, which is 2 to 4 week cycle. So when you mentioned like backlog grooming, we
absolutely.
divide into smaller parts which can fit in. We estimate the product owner, then changes the priorities, so prioritization, and it can be done with product owner with some of the team members or all of the team members. So usually in my teams, usually we
Yes,
put 10% of the team's time for backlog grooming because team is working on sprint 2, say for example. After sprint 2 they'll move to sprint 3, so the work items for sprint 3 need to be ready, and that's what we are doing in backlog grooming. So we are refining the user stories and putting all the relevant information so that those user stories or requirements are ready to be built. So absolutely fantastic. You have covered all the points. I just added a
right,
little bit points there. So I do not deny that I don't agree with the points that you have mentioned.
right, right.
I'm just adding
We
more.
have to give the priorities as well as
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Okay.
absolutely.
So yeah, that's what backlog grooming or backlog refinement is. Okay. Cool. Let's move on to the next question. Any questions till now for me?
Don't have right now.
Okay, okay, cool. Let's move on to the next question.
And
So, what is Jira, and what do you use Jira for? So you have used Jira, so I thought I'll ask that question as well.
yeah, yeah. Jira it is nothing but a tool which is developed by the Atlassian company. It is based on Australian company, and it is used for like to tracking the issues, to bug the, to tracking the bug, and to test management for project management also it is used, and product management also they are using for Jira, and software development team also they are using for Jira. So this is the like whole work we can done with the Jira. Like again new features like we have like test management, it is very helping for the testers also. We can manage everything in the Jira.
Yeah,
So there is some like plugin we have Zephyr we have, so we need to add and we need to go for that. So initially it was there like we have to write in the Excel sheet and we need to update all those things. So now Jira it is very helpful for those like who are using Jira, and we can use for the reporting or something. We can. see the reports or graph. You can see how progress is going, like teams, and this is all those things we can see in Jira. It is very helpful for the team as well. And it's the
Absolutely, totally
business for
agree
Jira.
that it's not just for the agile development teams. Jira is very vast. It can be used anywhere. It's highly customizable tool. And Jira software is mostly for the agile software development team because it provides a lot of templates. You can create Scrum project or Kanban project, many flexibilities. You covered that you can do
Kanban
defect
project.
management within it. You can do test management within it using the Zephyr plugin or X-Ray plugin. So yes, your answer is absolutely correct. And Jira is very widely used for the agile software development. Along with that, it's used across other domains like HR,
Yes.
finance. So very widely used. So absolutely correct there that it is not just a tool for software development. Cool. All right. Let's move
Tools
on
for
to
software.
the
Yes.
API testing questions, Imran. So this was all about Scrum and Jira, which is really good. Your answers were really good. I'll give you the overall feedback at the end. And now let's move to the API section or API testing.
Sure,
So what
sir.
do you
Sure.
understand by API testing?
API, it stands for Application Programming Interface. It is an interface, and you have seen that any web application they have three layers. First layers we have the presentations layer. Second is API layer, and third is the data layer. And that API layer we also call as business layer and the logical layer. We have the logic in the data layer, and they are made in like any language they are using to build that logic. And whenever, like, if you see, for example, I'll keep that in API, but if you go for the login page or some Gmail, you want to log in, and you have to give the credential, like user ID and password. Whenever you enter that, a request goes to the first API, and that from API it will go to the database, and it is fetching the record, and that database will give to the API, and that API will give the response to the client or to the GUI. So this is API it is working, and we need to test that API in the directly we can test in the API without GUI. So that is the advantage we have. It is the first processing we have, and also test the functionality, performance, security, all those testings we can do for the API testing. And for example, like if I can give more example on API, if you see that there are so many like website today you have available in the market for flight booking or something, like if you go for Yatra or make my. So what, like, for a users going for different like website and searching for the flight, so it is more timing and it is sometimes headaches for the user also. But if you go to yatra.com or make my trip or goiv.com, so they're giving like all the like ranges or all the flight details, like, and with the least price or the seat price or something, so we can put from there also. But what they're using, that they're using that API, so they're using API to fetch that all the flight details with that. This is easy for the customers, it is easy for like to the developer and testers all those things. So API, it is how like we are using that API. This is how that, this is called API. I think this is my
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Your understanding. I like the part, the way you have started answering this question that there are three layers. So that is very important point when you tackle any of these sort of questions that you have, data layer, the service layer, and the presentation, the UI, web UI layer, right? So And when you talk about the service, web service or API, it is the service layer that you have already explained. And you can directly test these APIs when they are developed because it is
without.
quick to test. So quick, basically, the test run very fast, and when you write the test or test through the UI, web UI, it is very, even if you automate, it's very brittle because the UI part is involved in that. So your answer is absolutely correct. Impressive the way you have started and the things that you have covered. Examples definitely that you have covered there are very, very good examples that you have given. So make sure whenever you're going for interview, take these couple of examples that you have covered here. Along with these, you can search and think of more examples so that you don't even have to go through many more
Right.
questions. If you give these sort of examples, I think interviewer will get impressed very quickly and they might just hire you straight away with just asking a couple of questions, right? So that's really good answer there, and I do not need to add anything more there because with 2+ years experience, I do not expect anything more when I ask what is API testing from you. Okay, so that's absolutely fantastic. You have given me two examples along with the clear
Thank you.
differentiation there. Okay, so now connecting to that question, what do you, what are the key differences between the API and web service?
If you see the difference between the API and web services, there are lots of difference between that, and I would say that API is like all the web services are API, but all the APIs are not web services, and web services are support only HTTP. But if you see that API is supported on like HTTP plus HTTPS, so that will be same for that. So and web services are also like it is supported or it is format only XML format or something. But if you go for API, whereas API, if you see that it is support like XML, JSON format also, and HTML and text file also it is supporting. And if you see that web services are also access and web service securities, whereas if you see that API, it is like SSL plus that HTTP. So, and if you see that major difference that web services need a network or internet to run the web services, but API don't need internet or something. So this is all the difference I can mention. So this is,
Right.
and
So,
if you see that web services also like,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, go ahead. So that is the difference I think I have seen. Like,
Okay. Okay. So, up to some extent, your answer is correct. Okay. And you have covered some very good points there that, you know, about the difference between the API and web service. Do you know any example? Can you give me any example that this is an API and this is a web service? Have you worked on Selenium?
yeah.
So, do you have any example? What is WebDriver?
Example I can give like WebDriver is an interface. That is the WebDriver. We have interface, and under that interface we have like method like find element and find elements like method we have, and under that we have the class. We have the Chrome driver and Firefox driver. All those things we have.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
example I can give that when you send the request,
Yeah. Go ahead.
when you send the request to the like anything like in web services we have to give the XML code, so that will be like we need to it in XML code. If you see that it is maintaining hierarchy, so you have to follow like from the parent to all those things. So and giving the server giving the response with that XML only. to
Yeah.
fetching the data or something. But
Okay.
here, if you go for the API will go for the URL. In that URL, and will get the response with the JSON format or XML, whatever
Okay.
document.
So I think there is
It
a
will
little
take
bit of
it to the
confusion between the API and web service that you have. So you are getting confused between SOAP and REST, which I'll cover later. But API and web service, the key differences I'll iterate so that it's helpful. So there are few points that you have mentioned as part of this answer, which are absolutely correct. Okay. But few things you have got confused between SOAP and REST. So I'll cover the key differences between API and I'll also give you examples so that you can tackle this question. So what an API is, an API basically is an interface, as you mentioned about the WebDriver. So WebDriver is an API, okay? And an API is
right.
used, it's an interface between two applications. Okay. So they can communicate with each other. When we talk about the WebDriver
Absolutely.
API, okay, the WebDriver
Absolutely.
API doesn't require any internet as such. So you install the WebDriver, you configure Eclipse ID, you import that, and then it's on your local machine. And that WebDriver API communicates with the browser drivers and opens the browser for you, right? So there is no, it's within the machine. There is no network as such involved.
Right.
Okay. So API will act as an interface between two applications. So you have the WebDriver API and you have the Chrome browser or Chrome driver. So your WebDriver API interacts,
Right.
interfaces with the Chrome driver, Firefox driver, and other driver, right? So that's what an API is. It necessarily doesn't, it doesn't need it doesn't have to be a web based. Okay, so that's the API. And when we talk about the web service, it's the web service. It's basically over the HTTP. Okay, so over the internet. If it requires the internet,
Yes.
so say for example, you talked about the yatra.com or any other travel website. So whatever web services or APIs are exposed there from those airline websites, those are the web services because they communicate over the network, right? So that's the key difference,
Over internet. Yes.
right? Okay, so that's the key difference, and web service is an API. So all APIs are not web service, but all web services are APIs. Okay, so a web service is an API wrapped in HTTP. Okay, so when you wrap the API into
HTTP.
HTTP,
Yes. Right.
that is a web service. But because Selenium WebDriver is not wrapped in HTTP, it's on your local machine. It's also an API, right? Selenium WebDriver is an API, it's on your local machine. It communicates with other browser drivers. That is also an API, but it is not communicating over HTTP, right? And the other key difference is that a web service usually you will
Absolutely.
find like SOAP, REST, XML, RPC for communication. APIs can use any style, right? So like your jar file, the jar Selenium API. Okay, so that they can use any style for
Right.
communication. So couple of key differences. So these examples, if you understand, you go through Google and search all the other points that you can think of. You have covered very good points, which some of them were correct. So keep those and remove
I'll
the
go through that.
confusion.
I'll go through some of the
Yeah.
examples.
So I hope the confusion between API and web service would have been removed now with this example, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So web service, web is internet, right? Web. So when You can remember like that web service, okay, something
Right.
related to the network. API, something which could be network but could be local as well, right? I mean, wouldn't be necessarily HTTP. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So now let's move on to the next question, which is about, again, related to web service and API. So what exactly do you understand by SOAP? Have you heard about SOAP?
So yeah, so also it is a type of web services. So there are two types of like web service. If you say that SOAP and REST, and SOAP it is a, if you say known also for like single object access protocol. So that SOAP is also as an XML based protocol, which is like accessing web service over the HTTP, and that XML it is like intermediate language which is exchanging the data between the applications, and all the programming are using that XMLs to providing the like data exchange of the application. But if you see there is a like no standard specifications on users like in XML across the all like programming language. So because of that only like SOAP has came into the picture, and SOAP can what SOAP is the like communications applications protocol, and SOAP is a like format for the sending or receiving the message. So also it is like an independent platform that is independent on language. So this is about the SOAP. It is a like uh, protocol actually that based on the HTTP. So on the
Yeah.
web service. So this is about the SOAP I can say.
Yes, absolutely correct there. Now, because we are from testing background, so the whole point of asking this question in API testing, SOAP, and I'll ask rest later, is basically to understand as part of the testing team or the tester's role, whether you understand the key differences which will help you to excel in that particular testing role. And then when you communicate with other members of the team, say for example developers,
Right.
then you will ask the right set of questions, right? So you have explained about the SOAP, the definition, and it exclusively relies on the XML for messaging. So XML is the key thing within SOAP. The other important thing
Mhm.
you should always remember and mention in the interview is that WSDL files are the key to SOAP-based services, right? So you get a web service description language, you get the WSDL file, right? WSDL, and it's a XML-based definition language, so WSDL. So
Yes.
whenever you have to test a SOAP service,
Yes.
and if a developer has given you a WSDL file, as a tester, you know that this is a SOAP service, right? So this is the whole point of asking this
Right.
question, whether by just getting a little bit of information from the developer or within the team, you will be able to understand what set of questions you need to ask, right? So your answer is correct. Just include that SOAP is WSDLs are the
Yes.
central thing or the
Exactly.
key
Because
thing for SOAP based services, right? And SOAP can, in SOAP you can define its own security. SOAP can
I think there is some
transfer over.
network issue is going on.
Is it fine?
Network issue. Yeah, now it is fine.
Okay. So the transfer, so SOAP can transfer over HTTP, SMTP, and other protocols, etc. So rest will cover in the next question. But remember, key thing, always mention about the WSDL, okay? And mention that SOAP exclusively
Definitely.
relies on the XML to provide the messaging. So these are the two key things, because as a tester, you need
And receiving
the
messages.
payloads, you need the WSDL file, and then you need the payloads and what exactly you will do with those payloads to test it, right? So if you want to learn about the SOAP web service, etc., I have the full tutorial series on SOAP UI. I'm not sure if you have watched it, but it's like 30 plus videos which will cover each and every aspect of the API
I
testing.
I I I, I haven't seen that videos,
Okay, just
but
browse through.
most of the time I'm using that REST API.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll
Yeah.
go through that only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But most
nowadays,
of the time, I
mostly
think REST are using in the in the company. Yeah.
that's correct.
So
Yeah, that's correct. So nowadays, mostly you will find REST implementation many places. But then, if you go to banks and there are older implementations, so I have worked very extensively on the SOAP web service. Just like last year, I worked on the whole project, which was all SOAP or all SOAP services. So it helps overall. Okay, but key difference you should mention. Okay, so let's move to the next question. So what do you understand by rest? So you have covered SOAP. Now what is rest?
REST, again, I can say it is stands for representational state transfer. So, and that representational state transfer, it is like architecture style. It is providing to the computer to communicate each other or between the systems. And in the REST, if you see that in order to use the REST, a web service needs a minimum state RESTful. But if you see the constants of the RESTful or REST, that is client service stateless, and you can see the constants of that REST, that is uniform interface. Again, I can say layered systems, code damage. So this is, and for the REST, it is like used for the HTTP method hopper. Like we have the more important method we have, that is get, post, put, and delete method. So that we need to communicate with it.
Okay. Okay, good. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't able to hear, so there was some disturbance in the network, but I did hear a couple of
Yeah, because of
key
network.
points. Just want to add there, as I mentioned, that in the SOAP question, you will mention about the WSDL. In the rest, you will mention about the uniform resource identifiers or URIs. Okay. So REST APIs use URIs, uniform resource identifiers, to address the resources. Okay. Because this is the key thing to a tester to identify whether you are testing a REST web service or a SOAP web service. Okay, so that's the key thing that I would recommend you mention that. And then the rest thing you have mentioned that it's an architectural style, it is lightweight, it transfers over HTTP only. So all those points are absolutely fine. You go ahead and mention that. Now, when somebody asks the SOAP and REST question, it's basically to understand that as a tester, you understand these services, and if given, then you will be able to identify and test them properly because you know what these are. Okay, and how they look like, whether you'll be looking for WSDL or whether you'll be
Right,
looking for
right.
URIs. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Let's move on. You briefly mentioned about the HTTP methods briefly in the previous question, but I'll ask again, what are the common HTTP methods supported by REST web service? Some common methods, just a couple of them.
So basically, we are using like uh, four method we are using to method and delete method. These four we are using the most of the time we are using API or in the postman if you see that, but we are not using those things. But these four are very important, and these four are we are using most of the time. We are using these four. And if you see that gate method, if you like to use gate method to retrieve the data from the resource or from the database, if you want to like to get the data from database, then we have to go for the get method. If you see the post method, to use the post method, it is creating the data to the database. Something if you want to create some data, if you want to like enter something, then you have to go for the post method in the database. But put method, it is going to update the data. If you like changing any name or any column or anything you need to update, then you have to go for the put method. Again, delete method, it is again deleting the data. You need to delete or you need to anything column you don't want to like be there in the database, so you need to go for the delete method. So
Right.
this is the method we are using. Page also is there. Page, I think it is again it is like for updating or something, updating for the database. Page and Pooch are working for uh, similar kind of thing. So this
Right.
is the method we are using in that HTTP to communicate all those.
Right. Okay. Absolutely correct. So you have answered the key methods. So you use get, post, put, delete, patch. So these are the key ones. I mean, if you are doing the API testing, REST testing, you will definitely have used these ones for sure. So you have named all of these along with the explanation, which is absolutely correct. Now there are more methods. So in Postman, if you go through the drop down, there are many more methods, but that's fine.
Yes,
You
yes,
can go
many
through
more.
and read what all they do as you go along with the testing. But these are the key ones, and you have good understanding what exactly they are and what they do. Now I'll go a little bit deeper on the differences of put and post. So what is the difference between put and post method?
Post again, I have mentioned already. Post method, whenever you want to create any database or resource, like already like data creating the database already we have in the database, or something we need to create new database or something like with the name or user password or something, then we have to go for the post method. And in the post method, in the put method, what we can do, like already we have the table format or database we have. So what we have to do, if anything we need to modify in the existing database or anything we need to update, then we have to go for the put method. So this is the difference, key difference we have. That is, post method it is for creating, and put method it is for updating or modifying existing database. So we are not creating anything in the put.
Right. Okay.
So this
Good.
is the key difference.
Right. Okay. Absolutely correct there. So post will create a new resource or new data using the post method. And
Yes.
one more thing you should always add there, because your understanding is very good. So add a point that post method is not idempotent. So have you heard about idempotent word? Have you came across it?
No.
Okay. So this is important word to remember about it. So when we say post is not idempotent, what this means in the context of REST APIs, when you will make multiple identical requests. So what post method will do is it will create a new record every time. Say for example, if I create using the post method my name, first name and last name, say Manish Verma, okay? And I want to create the name in the database in the name field, in the
Yes.
name table. So if I use post method, I'll send a request once, it will create one record with Manish Verma. I'll send again, it will insert another record, another row with Manish Verma. So every
Right.
time I'll send a post request, it will
Right.
create a new record every time. So there will be duplicate records with same data that you will send. And that is what it is
Right.
not idempotent. Okay. When we say so post is not idempotent. When we say idempotent,
Okay.
it what it means is it is put method. So in the put method, what happens is it is the method to modify the resource where you send the data. Say, for example, put is very similar to post. The difference is if there is no data as such in the database. So, say, for example, I want to insert a record, my first name and last name. So, I'll use put method, it will insert a record. All right. So, it will insert my name, Manish Verma, in the table. The next time I'll
Right.
send the request, it will see that if the data with the same details exists, it will overwrite the entire data and it won't create the new record. Got it? So put method is idempotent. However, post method is not idempotent. You got the difference there? So you can explain this with this particular example.
Right.
Okay. Now
I'll
we'll come.
remember that word because I'm not come across on that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'll,
yeah. Just
yeah.
remember that it will be really helpful and understand with the example. Now I'll come
Means
to patch as
somehow
well.
I have heard one or twice, but I'm not remember. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, most of the time you just keep using it. So these words are helpful when you go for interviews, right? So when you understand, when you go with the
Right.
example, when
Right.
you understand, when you explain these with different examples, it uh, makes a very good impression with the interviewer, right?
It
So
helps. Right.
yeah, so I'll move to the similar because there is one more method which you mentioned, the
Right.
patch method. So what is patch
Right.
method?
Because similar with the port, I think it is like updating the data to the database. So this is the difference I can understand because we are not using much.
Right. Okay. So I'll explain the difference, this difference as well, because it is really helpful to understand the key differences because once you understand the basics your learning
Yeah.
becomes really enjoyable. Okay. So we have understood about post, we have
Right.
understood about put. Now, patch is similar to put. Okay. The difference is patch
Right.
will help you to apply partial update. Okay. When we say partial update, now say for example, I want to update only my last name in the database. So just updating the last name is possible using patch. So I can use the patch method and I can say update my last name from this to this. In my request, I'll send like that. Okay. Is it clear?
Now getting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yes.
So that's these are some of the key differences. Your answer around put post understanding is absolutely fine. No issues with that. It's just a little bit of refinement that I have done. Okay, so that it's more impressive when you go for interview
Interesting.
or in front of interview. Anyways, your interview was very impressive. And if you have any questions, you can ask now.
Thank you.
Otherwise, I'll go to the feedback.
No, you have finished means I'll go for like questions or you have like anything questions you have.
So that's the end of today's interview. So the next round, what we'll do is we'll
Okay.
cover SQL and other topics. So we are almost more than an hour today. It's a bit long interview. So we'll cover the
Yeah.
remaining in the round two.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're fine, you do not have
Right.
any questions, I'll go to the feedback.
No, I have two questions for you, and I have first questions I have that is like where I'm lacking, so where I need to improve more. Like, is there anything like improve or something? Of course it will be there because I'm not perfect. So, and which field I need to improve more to like get the job or like any personalities wise also like. And second question, this is for you. Like you have like so much like confidence, so much understanding, so much like example you can give and explanations of those things. But my question is like what is your weakness? Like we have some, everybody's have like positive and negative also, like, and a strong point as well as weakness point. So what is your weakness point? So I just want to know that. So we have the
Right.
strong point. I know that you have like good enough, like you can be, but weakness point I need to then, and what you are doing with the weakness points, how you're becoming strong with the weakness point.
Right. Okay. So I'll cover both of those for you. Um, First thing, let's go to the feedback. All right. So, in terms of feedback
Yes.
of your current interview, so I am very impressed with the answers that you have given me. I understand that all the answers that I have asked, I do not expect that you will give all the answers absolutely, fantastic, correct as I'm expecting. But based on your resume, the work that you have done, it clearly shows, your interview clearly shows that you have worked extensively, and you have not only worked, you have understood the core concepts of the things that you have worked on, whether it's the process, Scrum, Agile, or the API testing. So there are few points that you need to go ahead and refine. So there was a bit of misunderstanding on some of the questions. So especially when I asked about the difference between the API
Yes.
and web service. So there is always a possibility to improve and learn new things. I did not expect that you will answer the
Definitely.
overall thing perfectly fine. If I have to go ahead and hire you as part of this interview, I would have definitely moved you to the next round based on what you have provided me or the answers that you have given me. Right. Now, when it comes to the the presentation, right? So there is a little bit of work that you can do on the presentation, especially the modulation of your voice and how you will. So that makes your answers very good. So I'm giving you this feedback because you already know a lot of things. So when you will work on your voice modulation and the way you present the answers, it will be very, very impressive. You can definitely, so if you get a call and there is a proper requirement, you will definitely get through. So there is no reason that I see that you are not prepared for the interview. Okay, you are absolutely prepared. Your knowledge is fantastic. You have good examples to back them up. You have good experience. With 2+ years experience, I'm very, very impressed. Okay, so just work on a couple of points that I have mentioned. That's it, right? And reading and learning will go on. So in terms of interview, I'm pretty happy.
Right.
Okay. In the next interview, next round that I go through with you around SQL, I'll provide you feedback on that. But Agile, Scrum, API testing, whatever basics we have covered today, it's absolutely fantastic. Okay. Now,
Yes.
coming to the second question. That's a tricky question for me as well. And so the weaknesses, the biggest weakness, or you can say the strength I have is that, I mean, some people say it's a weakness, and I find it, sometimes I find it weakness or strength, but I keep myself busy a lot. So I keep either reading something or either browsing something, new tools, technologies. I keep myself involved too much, and I think that's a sort of weakness that I have. I'm becoming a bit of workaholic, you can say. So this is the main weakness as of now. I mean, the latest weakness I can tell you, and this concerns me as well. What I'm doing about it, in 2021, I've started taking regular breaks. So when I talk about breaks, I will be going out. So I'll be forcing myself to go out with family and stay away from all the work for a day. Because if I'm home, I'll either pick a book and start reading it. So anything in excess is not good. And this is what is becoming my weakness. So because something interests you, it shouldn't be just that thing in your life. So that's what the major thing I need to improve. And you will be seeing videos of me posting, taking breaks. So I think in 2021 I'll improve on that. I'll make a balance. I'll have a balance between work, my actual office work, whatever I do with the for the software testing community, and whatever I do for myself, because I need to take care of myself as well, so that I can keep creating content for
Right.
everyone, right? So that's the bit of thing. So this recently you will see another post coming through, me having fun somewhere, which is forced sort of vacation, which will be which has been planned. So
Mm.
I'm working on it. All right. Any other
That's good.
questions?
That's good. Even I like travel also.
Yes. Yeah.
No,
So
I don't
yeah.
have right now.
Cool.
And
All right.
and again, thank you for conducting these interviews. And it is very going to help me also as well as, and I'll keep those word, and I'll keep those like where I'm getting lack and where I don't have the confidence to like speak, like I'm getting lack on that web service and API. So I'll go through that as well as you have mentioned some of the websites also. And I'll go through and I'll check all those things
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
prepare
Learning. I mean,
preparation for that
you
interview.
can learn. So if there is some question that you haven't been able to answer, even in the real interview, don't feel bad about it. Nobody knows everything. I've been in industry for so long, okay?
Right.
So 15 plus years, and I am still learning. I'll be still learning until, so the day you stop learning is basically that's when you stop growing. So keep learning, and nobody knows everything. So even the person who will be interviewing you doesn't know everything. What they are looking for is,
Right.
can you add the
Right.
value
Absolutely.
to that particular role? Okay, so they'll in that particular 1 hour they will just understand your confidence, how you present, and what exactly you bring on the table or for that particular role. So your interview was really good,
Right.
and I was really impressed with the
Mm.
scrum part, because people in the industry for 10 plus years, if I ask those questions, they are not clear on those. So that is very impressive. And me being the agile trainer as well, so I
Thank you, sir.
train a lot of people on Scrum and the overall
Right.
agile. So I have a very strong inclination on being agile, right? Myself in my work, in the overall growth, right? So I embrace those values myself personally and in professional workplace as well. Okay. So any other questions? Otherwise, we'll end the interview.
No, sir. Right now it is no. Right now I don't have. So if it is further, it is there. Then I'll connect with you. Or I'll discuss regarding further.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, Imran. It was a pleasure talking to you, and have a nice day.
And nice you too also, and nice to meet you, sir. And thank you.